Ringside Report Network has a new and exclusive line of clothing. First up, the Jiu-Jitsu Rash Guard. This isn't just gear, it's a statement. A commitment to eco-friendly battles on the mats and waves. And for those who live by the bold champion spirit, we have something special. A line for men and women designed not just for the fight, but for life. Wear our bold champion spirit of Jiu-Jitsu Rash Guard confidently. Its striking design with golden figures in combat honors the enduring spirit of competition in martial arts. Pair it with our unisex mesh shorts, the perfect combo of style, comfort, and eco-conscious design for the modern warrior. And don't forget, our Jiu-Jitsu Bold Champion Spirit leggings. This attire is expertly engineered to channel the champion spirit in every move you make. Together, it's not just about looking good. It's about feeling the part and living the Jiu-Jitsu way, both on and off the mats. Meticulously crafted for the yoga studio, the gym, and beyond, blending style, comfort, and the heart of a champion. Wear your passion, embody sustainability, and elevate your practice. Join the league of athletes who wear their values as proudly as their belts. It's more than clothing, it's a way of life. Ringside Report Network, where champions dress for success, sustainability, and the spirit of the sport.
Attention to all professional wrestling fans and followers of the legendary Johnny Genesis North. We are releasing a must-have collection of Johnny North merchandise in our store at merch.ringsidereport.net, starting with our limited edition Johnny Genesis North 3/4 sleeve t-shirt. With a unique design capturing Johnny in action, this tee exudes raw energy and intensity through its versatile 3/4 sleeves for any weather. Stand with our legendary co-host, Johnny North. Make a bold statement in the wrestling community by getting yours today, exclusively at merch.ringsidereport.net.
Get ready to amp up your betting game with Ringside Report Network's latest knockout offer. We've teamed up with our pals at Bet99.com to bring you something that will shake up the betting world. Dave's Picks with boosted odds. Here's the lowdown. Normally you see odds like -200 over at Bet99, right? Picture this. We hit up our buddies at Bet99 and worked out some magic. Suddenly those odds? They're looking a whole lot sweeter at -150. That's right, and we're all about getting you those exclusive, juiced up odds, only for the Ringside Report universe. So here's the game plan. We dish out the picks, and you keep those eyes peeled. You might see a number on Bet99, but hold up. Wait until Saturday morning rolls around. Thanks to those boosted odds we've snagged for you, those numbers will look much better. I'm all for Bet99 doing great, but let's not kid ourselves. We want to win big too. It's all in good fun, and hey, it's part of the thrill of the game. They're in on it, and we're in on it. It's all about having a blast while pocketing some extra cash. Ready to take advantage of those boosted odds? Go to the special Ringside Report Bet99 link on your screen. We're all about seeing how much we can boost the odds for you, our loyal viewers. And a huge thank you to Bet99 for their support of the Ringside Report Network.
Yes, indeed. It's Ringside Report MMA. Tonight on the show, can Poirier beat Makhachev next weekend? Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen in a trilogy fight, and big Conor McGregor news.
Let's go!
Yeah, let's go. Let's bring in the boys. The whole crew is here. Freddie is here, my main man. AJ D'Alessio, Blue AJ, Blue Jay as we're calling him tonight. He sucks just as bad as the Blue Jays. He sucks. He's AJ.
Blue Jays?
They suck, don't they? They're garbage.
AJ. Come on, Dave. It's a Canadian team, man. The only one in, Major League Baseball. Give them
Don't even get me started.
Some love, man.
Don't even get me started.
Give them some love.
They're last place in the AL East. I'll give them love. They're
World
11
Series
games back. They're 11 games back of the best team in the American League, the New York Yankees, who won again today. Thank you. Beat the first place AL West Seattle Mariners today. Thank you very much. Go Yankees. Yankees have the best record in the American League, 35-17. First place in the East. 3.5 games up for the Orioles. Let's go. We got MMA to talk about, but I am very excited about the Yankees. This whole show could devolve into Yankee talk if we're not careful. Fred, you know what's going on. I'm excited. What can I say? The Yankees are looking good, right? Come on, Fred. You can't deny it now.
I mean, yeah, they're looking good, but baseball season is so long. Talk to me in September. I'll get interested there.
True.
It's so far away. That's so deep into the season at that point. It's basically over. September.
Yeah, well, September and the playoffs. That's pretty much all I care for.
Yeah, well, I hope that the Yankees are there at that point and they make a big run in the playoffs and win the World Series, because that's the goal right now, and it's looking pretty good so far. But there's some tough teams out there for sure. Phillies are looking mighty tough. Okay, MMA stuff. We got stuff to talk about. None of our parlays cashed in last weekend. Let's start right off the bat with some losses. We lost last weekend. We all sucked. However, I do want to give myself a little Barry Horowitz here because I gave you Demopoulos in the opening fight as a big underdog, and she cashed in. A lot of our Greek fans were excited about the Demopoulos pick from Big Dave, and Demopoulos cashed in with a split decision win last weekend in the opening fight. So hopefully some of you put some money down on Demopoulos and made some money, but my parlay, something messed up. I think it was Barbosa, right? We had Barbosa in the main event, and he lost to Lerone Murphy in the UFC's Fight Night last weekend at the Apex. And as you can see, AJ is having connection problems. He's coming in and out. Are you with us, AJ?
I'm there, man. Can't you see me?
Blue Jay is gone, but AJ is not really back.
Yeah. He's cutting in and out. What? I don't know what's happening. It seems like every week, AJ, your technology gets worse. It's like it's aging exponentially. I don't really understand how your technology gets so obsolete so quickly. It's really crazy.
There's a hacker on the site, but that's
it's
my 2 cents.
It's mostly AJ.
Decrepit has been.
Even the color, man. Look at the color. It looks like green over there.
Yeah, well, we're trying to make you look as good as possible, AJ, but, there are limits. There are limits to what we can do with you.
Maybe
AJ has internet from the 70s.
Yeah.
Production issues.
AJ's still on dial-up. It's a problem. I like that, Fred, you picked a time when internet didn't even exist. You're just like... Some of our younger viewers may not know that in the 70s there was no internet. That was a very...
Well, I mean, look at his image. He has a grainy feeling to it. Is I've been playing NBA 2K24, and they got an option where you could play with the teams from the 80s, and they make it look like the 80s, and this is what AJ looks like. He looks like a broadcast from the 80s.
Yeah. He looks like he's playing at the LA Forum, Live from the Montreal
feel so much
Forum,
better.
it's AJ DeLessio.
Hartford
1972.
Whalers.
Right down St. Catherine
best,
Street.
man.
It's AJ. Here we go.
Right down on St. Catherine, the old
That's
Montreal
right.
Forum. One of the greatest places, man, that the Canadians, man, because ever since then, it's downhill, man. The Bell Center has killed everything from internet Canadians. Let's talk. I'll tell you.
You're going to get a lot of
something.
thumbs down,
Let's
AJ,
talk.
today.
Yeah, you're really choppy, AJ. It's just tough to talk to you. I almost want you to leave the show, but can't kick you out. We're getting the gist of what AJ's saying, but it's real tough.
We will.
What? Don't cut in. Don't jump in. Wait for me to throw
matter,
to you
eh?
because it's just outrageous.
Here, let me reset it again, motherfuckers. Here we
Okay.
go.
Here he is. Our frozen friend, AJ.
I'm
How's
not
he
even
doing
sure
now?
what he means by reset.
No, because he only goes away for like half a second and then he's back,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
The disconnect
There's no
should
way
take
that's a reset.
No.
And now
The
he's gone.
Yeah, now he's gone. I wonder if he even knows he's gone. Oh, Fred, what are we gonna do with this guy? We got
I know, man.
a new computer for AJ that is coming. But right now,
What's that? I
What are you
think he
saying?
was back. I think
Was
he
he
was back?
back?
But I was going to say, plus, I need AJ because, like I told you when we started the show, I have my door that's going to ring at some point. So I'm going to probably have to leave you alone for 2 minutes.
oh, I
Yeah.
see. What are you expecting? A delivery?
Nah.
Oh, you're expecting? Okay, I understand. Yeah, AJ is not with us. AJ is. I mean, maybe he's with it. Let me see. Let's check in on AJ. AJ, live from 1972.
You know what? Give me 5.
Give you
Home
5?
Studios. Give me 5.
What? Did you get that,
Give
Fred?
me 5, man.
3 ain't enough,
Give me
man.
5,
He
I'm
needs
gonna
5.
Virtual high five.
Angelo Contagona says AJ has internet from the Paleolithic era. AJ's got caveman internet.
Look at that. Black and white. I think it's a production issue. There's production is me.
No,
Yeah,
AJ.
this is just not working.
I think we are putting you in black and white, though, just to make you look extra old-timey because it's just so ridiculous. I think we are messing with your color to make you look like you are from the 20s.
But the audio
Well, I
is
feel
all
like it
you.
right now.
Yeah, the audio is 100% you, AJ.
You can hear me well?
No, I hear you muttering to yourself. I think those were curses at me and Fred for some reason. I like how he blames us for his failures of internet.
Listen, give me 5.
When you were
Movie
taking your
studio.
pre-show break, man, he was almost going into a conspiracy that somebody had to be hacking him or something like, and he was serious, man. And I'm like, no, AJ, it's just you. It's you.
Yeah, because we're going to fix it for you, AJ, and then it'll all be fine. So all your conspiracy theories will go out the window.
Until AJ goes on the wrong sites and slows down the next computer.
Yeah. Which he might do. I don't know if he knows how to do that, actually. To be quite honest, I don't know if he knows how to do that on the internet. I don't think he's that advanced.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
People that don't know will just wander off. You know, he's old, man. He wanders off. Like, his brain's not all there, and he goes all over the internet, and boom, all of a sudden, he's got internet AIDS.
Yeah, it could happen. AJ's the type of guy who still types www before entering the internet website, you know?
I do, actually. What's the problem with that?
I do. You don't have to do that, man. You can just write the thing. Just write whatever, ringsidereport.net. You never notice that I don't say www. Because you don't have to do that. It's unnecessary. But I knew you still did
But
that
you know-
because your grasp of the internet is this big. That is fantastic. I said that as a joke, and you're like, I do that. You're the best.
But you know, almost every promo I do, I always say www.net.
I think what AJ said was every promo I do, I put in www.ringsidereport.net. Yeah, I know, but you don't have to do that. You do that because, I don't know, you're from the Paleolithic era. What can I tell you? Look, see, support the network and look great like Dave at merch.ringsidereport.net. You never hear me say W. Unless I'm talking about the WWE, brother.
WWE.
Oh, man. So, let's talk about some MMA things, guys. How about this? Anderson Silva and Chael Sonnen are going to do a boxing match in Brazil, June 15th. Chael said that he was given the option of doing an MMA fight with Anderson, but he chose to box Anderson, which is strange for many reasons, because he plans to box Jorge Masvidal later this year, and he wants to use this as a tune-up fight, as practice. I don't know. But Anderson and Chael together again, the trilogy fight. They had 2 legendary fights in the UFC. They had a legendary rivalry. If you don't remember it, it was incredible. It put trash talking in the UFC to a whole new level. Chael Sonnen ran his mouth big time, talked his way into a title shot with Anderson Silva, and almost beat Anderson Silva. Was beating him down, was going to get the decision victory, but then with about 90 seconds left, as Chael took Anderson down once again, found himself in Anderson's guard, and Anderson managed to triangle him and then put him in an armbar and force the tap from Chael Sonnen. I think it was a triangle and armbar. I'm not sure what Chael was tapping to, but Anderson had him locked pretty good. And Anderson retained his championship in that fight. It was one of the greatest fights I've ever seen, one of the best comebacks, probably the greatest comeback in UFC title fight history. I can't see any comeback that was more just impressive and more magical than that one, for me personally. I mean, there are, some other ones like, when Leon Edwards knocked out Kamaru Usman, he was coming from behind. That was pretty impressive in a title fight. But Anderson choking out Chael, tapping Chael in the 5th round with about a minute and a half left to go was unbelievable. He retained the title. Then they did a rematch, and Anderson beat him down pretty good in the second fight. I think finished him in the 1st or 2nd round, TKO victory. And that was big. Chael talked a lot of trash, and now they're going to do a boxing match, which seems like a bad move for Chael because he was a wrestler, and Anderson was a striker and is a striker and has pro boxing experience and beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in a boxing match. Like, he's boxed recently. He lost to Jake Paul, but I think Chael would too. So, it's an interesting move. I think it'll be a fun retirement fight for Anderson Silva in Brazil, in his hometown. I think it'll be in Anderson's hometown. Well, maybe not his hometown, but close to it. And I think it's Chael's first time fighting in Brazil. So I think it's cool, like, as an event. As a fight for Chael, it seems like a bad idea.
Yep.
Chael fighting Anderson Silva on any day in any kind of style fight seems like a bad idea to me, just given their history and what Anderson is capable of and how much belief I have in Anderson Silva. Belief and love. Love and respect for Anderson. I mean, who doesn't love Anderson? But, I think it's cool.
Boxing skills that count.
Yeah, Anderson's the best. What are you wondering, Fred?
I mean, it's kind of cool, but I'm wondering why Chael is doing this, man. Chael has a good after career. Why does he need to go over there and do a boxing fight where, if we're honest, I think Anderson should clearly be the favorite. He's going to be home. I think he's clearly the better striker. So I don't know. I'm not sure why Chael is getting into that. He has a good life, man. He makes he's an MMA reporter and he has this podcast. He doesn't need to do this. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, but I think he's a fighter. He likes to fight. There's that part. He does want to fight Masvidal because he's got a personal beef with him, and I think that he thinks he could beat him, and maybe he can't. But Masvidal's going to fight Nate Diaz first if that ever happens. They pushed it, right? It was supposed to be in June, but then they pushed it to July. It was supposed to be next week, Nate and Masvidal boxing. But it's actually in July now, like the 10th or something. They moved the venue, too. I'm starting to wonder if it's ever going to happen.
They might not be selling tickets or.
Well, dude, they were doing the fight in L.A. and they moved it to Anaheim. I mean, they changed venues. This happened in May, like early May. Earlier this month, right? Like 3 weeks ago, they announced, oh, actually, we're going to do it in July because we didn't want to overlap with UFC 302 in Newark, New Jersey. So the UFC's doing a big pay-per-view. They're doing Islam and Dustin next weekend. And Jorge and Nate were supposed to box in L.A. on the same night. Yeah.
Yeah, but pay-per-view wise, that doesn't make sense still.
Who's going to buy that pay-per-view?
I mean, nobody, but if the UFC's on the same night, it's going to be nobody minus even the fighter's family.
It's weird that Masvidal and Nate Diaz were big draws in UFC, but seeing them box each other, like no one wants to see that. No one cares.
It shows the power of the UFC. People always want to go like power to the fighter. You know, let's make these guys are the stars. They should be making the big bucks and all. And there's some truth to that. But there's also some truth to having a solid organization like the UFC, which is something like boxing is lacking. You know, like where boxing doesn't have that one organization where everybody could go and go, this is where the top quality boxing happens 90% of the time. Whereas in MMA, UFC is that 90% of the top MMA fights in the world happen in the UFC. So there's something to be said to the value of the company.
I think it's also because these guys aren't doing the sport we want to see them do. Like if this was an MMA fight being produced by Nate and Jorge Productions, not in the UFC, they decided they're going to fight each other, they're going to promote it themselves, and it's going to be MMA. I think people would be into that. I'd be into that. You know? But, like, seeing them box, it's like, well, why, guys? Why? We've seen you fight MMA. Why don't you just do that again? That'd be pretty good. The fight kind of ended inconclusively. Nate had to stop because he was cut. Let's see it. Let's see it again. Run it back. I don't understand why they're boxing. It seems unnecessary. And because the thing is, people that like these guys are generally MMA fans. So why aren't you doing an MMA fight? Maybe it's a contract thing. Maybe Jorge can't because he's still locked down with the UFC or something. I don't know. But
yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be surprised where he's not allowed to do MMA fights unless he finishes his contract with the UFC.
I guess he's still under contract, right? Because Nate's not.
I mean, he could retire. It's a little bit like George. You know, George couldn't go fight for other promotions.
No, he can't retire. You can retire, but your contract is still there if you decide to fight. Exactly. You can't do MMA. They lock you down.
Your rights on your next fight are still owned by the UFC.
But Nate didn't retire. He just ran.
No, he finished. Yeah,
he finished. Exactly. Like, he's free. He could go fight MMA for Bellator, PFL, whatever the hell that is, or, you know.
Yes.
Anything. He could go
but
anywhere.
Jorge probably not, I would think.
Yeah, that's probably the hang-up there. So the problem is these two guys are draws in combat sports, but in a boxing match, it's just not getting people excited. Like, people are more excited to see Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul than they are for Masvidal and Diaz, you know? Which makes sense. I get it. Bigger names for sure.
They're boxers.
I mean, there's some good fights coming this summer. You know, Conor's coming back. Like, there's stuff to, like, Diaz and Masvidal is a nice fight, but there's big MMA fights. You know, there's big fights happening this summer and all. So people will pay attention a little bit to Masvidal Diaz, but it's not as if it's the must-see event of the summer. Whereas a couple of years ago, like when they fought, like 3-4 years ago, I don't know how many years ago they fought, that was like the must-see event. You know, that was the baddest motherfucker belt and all. But right now, they're not the must-see event no more.
It happens. Johnny North says,
I'd rather
Chael is
see
a
them in a
smart
jiu-jitsu
businessman.
match.
He probably has a litter of excuses if he loses. Man sells pay-per-views. He's not wrong. AJ, what would you rather see? I think your connection is not bad right now, so let's take advantage of this and give AJ a question and see what happens.
Moving up to 1994, man.
There you go. What would you rather see? What do you rather spend your pay-per-view dollars on, AJ? Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen in the boxing match, or Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz? If you have to buy one, which one are you buying? AJ?
Probably going to go with the Anderson Silva Chael Sonnen.
It didn't work.
Diaz.
You took
Sonnen,
too long
Chael
to start,
Sonnen.
AJ, man.
A lot of people like follow, but to be honest, man, these four guys. Listen. I'd rather see both of all these guys in a jiu-jitsu match over boxing. To be honest, that would excite. I would pay for either or for a jiu-jitsu, straight up, one-on-one man submission only fight, man. See, there's nothing from the boxing skills, because if anybody has great boxing skills, it's Anderson Silva against Diaz. I like to see those two guys fighting in a boxing match. That would interest me more than Chael Sonnen or Masvidal. But you know what? Above it all, I think a tournament or a jiu-jitsu submission only match is a much better sell than these guys boxing. And when you were talking about Tyson and Jake Paul, let's not forget, people are more attracted to this because they're boxing, man. And there's some skills for Jake Paul, and you've got the baddest man on the planet, the greatest fighters in boxing history, Mike Tyson. Everybody's going to want to watch that. The reason why these guys go into boxing is because it's easy. I hate to say that because I love boxing. I did enough amateur fights, and I'm going to tell you this.
Yeah.
It's easier for an MMA guy to go towards boxing because they don't have to worry about anything else. No takedowns, no submissions, no elbows, no kicks. It's just like a regular day at the gym when they're sparring. So they can go and do boxing. They're going to get a good payout, and they won't be really that beaten up. You know what I'm saying? It's
Maybe.
not bare knuckles fighting.
I don't think I got an answer out of you, though. Did you pick a fight that you'd rather see, or did you just kind of go on and on, AJ style?
I had originally said Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva would be my pick over Diaz and Masvidal.
Okay, you were just chopping out. I was having trouble hearing you. Okay, Anderson and Chael. I would tend to agree just for the nostalgia factor because I'm old now and I like that old stuff. But I agree with you. The jiu-jitsu matches are more intriguing. Like if Anderson and Chael were doing jiu-jitsu and Nate and Jorge in a submission grappling match, I think that would be really fun. But I think, guys, we have to admit, we were at the Montreal Quintet last week. We are jiu-jitsu guys. We are grapplers. We all love jiu-jitsu, and I think we're biased towards jiu-jitsu and grappling, and it's more interesting for us to watch jiu-jitsu than it is to watch boxing. We all watch more jiu-jitsu than boxing, and I think for combat sports fans, like for the general population of combat sports fans, that's not the case. You know what I mean? Most guys that are watching combat sports these days are boxing gets big numbers, man. I think boxing is still it's bigger as far as viewership than jiu-jitsu, but we are kind of in the minority in that way where we're watching way more jiu-jitsu than boxing. That's for sure. I'm watching way more straight up jiu-jitsu than boxing. I mean, I know Fred is too.
I kind of disagree with you, Dave.
Why?
I am, but I'll tell you what. It's more about who's participating. If it's Chael, I want to see Chael grapple. Anderson, I want to see Anderson grapple, but I could watch Anderson strike. He's a good striker. But let's say, when Tyron Woodley went to boxing, I'm like, I don't really need to see that. I don't really need to see Ben Askren go to boxing. I know he sucks at boxing. So it's more about the guy.
Well, look, and I'm going to with the boxing world, like the demographics, if you break it up, it's the majority men that are watching, these, where when you go to the jiu-jitsu side, I mean, it's a pretty good number of women that would tune into a grappling match over a boxing event. That's all I'm saying. It's just that the jiu-jitsu world.
Not sure about that.
I don't know where you're getting that from.
Yeah, Just because of the fact that there's a
Women
lot more
like
women
fighters, period,
jiu-jitsu.
man. Women like boxers also, man.
Yeah, but we have
There are
great
women that like
listen,
fighters,
I
they
like
like
to see
them both.
Yeah.
yeah, but I can still see. I'd rather see like myself like rather see like Amanda Nunes like grappling. I don't care, man. Or Ronda Rousey, man. Don't tell me that wouldn't hit the numbers. But if you see them boxing, it wouldn't be the same feel. It would have a lot of women tuning in for both men and women in jiu-jitsu. But the problem is that they can't put the spec boxing does. Boxing does a much better, I guess, show when they're
I don't know.
certain fights.
AJ's coming out with a lot of facts, and I'm not really
talking...
sure. I'm not really sure of those facts. AJ facts happening again, and glitching and all sorts of stuff. I do wonder, Fred, though, like if you surveyed, a bunch of UFC fans, right? A survey of UFC fans, and you ask them, what other combat sports are you likely to watch, or do you watch? How many of them would answer jiu-jitsu, and how many of them would answer boxing? Like, what are the demographics as far as MMA fans, and what's the crossover? Is it to grappling? Is it to striking? Like, are UFC fans, in general, grappling heads, or are they striking people? I think it's a mix, but I'd be interested to know like what the numbers are actually. I doubt the UFC's ever done that.
I think it's a mix, but I think also I'll bring back the discussion of Nate and Masvidal. Like the power of the UFC, which is Endeavor, and they have a contract with ESPN. Like that brings a lot of media attention. So that's very important in the equation. To bring the eyeballs is that you need the media attention, and the media is going to dictate what you're going to watch. And if the media tells you, well, Ben Askren versus Jake Paul is what you should watch, well, that's what they're going to watch. Now, right now, the media is not really likely to tell you to go watch grappling, unfortunately. Like the ESPN guys and all that, nobody's recommending you to go watch WNO or ADCC.
Yeah.
It's probably still, like, they're still pushing you towards boxing.
Exactly. that seems clear. Just in the mainstream of combat sports, people know, people were watching Usyk and Fury last weekend. People know who Tyson Fury is. He's got a reality show on Netflix. People know who Canelo Alvarez is. People know these people. They're big names in combat sports. They're big names in not just combat sports, but in sports and in pop culture. Gordon Ryan, in our world, is that guy. He's the number one combat sports jiu-jitsu guy. He's the number one jiu-jitsu player, no-gi, in the world, and he is crushing the competition. He's by far the best, and he does amazing things every single time he steps on the mat. So to us, Gordon Ryan, we go, yeah, of course, but mainstream, he's not there. He's not on ESPN. You're not seeing Gordon Ryan highlights. You're not seeing that type of stuff, where for us, those are the sports highlights we're looking for. You know what I mean? We're looking for the nice submission. We're looking for Gordon Ryan saying triangle, in the third minute, writing it on a piece of paper, going out and doing it, and then revealing the paper, and they're like, oh, my God, I can't believe he can do this. Like this guy pulls magic tricks in jiu-jitsu. He's incredible, but he's not crossed over. He's not become a mainstream sports star like the boxers have. So I think that's, pretty obvious. Boxing is kind of where the money is. Jiu-jitsu is not right now, even though we're more inclined to watch it. I'm talking about the three of us.
But
we're not regulars. What I'm saying, we're not like the mainstream of combat sports people. More people are going to know and watch boxing than they're going to watch jiu-jitsu. That's a fact. I don't know if that'll ever change.
I'm going to tell you this. Most of them are MMA fans. I mean, they would a jiu-jitsu match between, let's say, Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva again over a boxing match.
Okay.
That I can assure you. You could put thumbs. I can assure you.
We're putting thumbs down to your connection, AJ, not your opinions.
Oh, okay. No, I'm just saying like okay.
Oh, we know you're saying something.
We know
we
you're
just
saying
have no
something.
clue what it is.
Yeah, it's hard to understand.
Okay, I'm off. I'm gonna log off. And
When you log off, you don't really log off. You just kind of, like, what are you doing when you do that? Ah. Oh, AJ. Oh, AJ. Apparently, AJ needs to get himself a monitor. He needs to get like a monitor for the computer, and then it'll be all set up. But he hasn't got a monitor yet because he's slipping. AJ, get a monitor so we could set up your thing, man. We're giving you a computer. The least you could do is get a monitor. I mean, that's
Dave.
good.
Are you too young to know the TVs where you had to put it on the U, and then there was like another thing that you would roll downstairs, like the top button that you would roll only had like 12 channels.
Yeah.
There was like on the noon, like angle, the noon, it was a U. And that would bring you to the channels of the one downstairs that had like another, I don't know, 20 channels that you would turn. But most of them had nothing because you never.
That had no remote control, right?
Yeah, no, there was no remote control.
No, I always had a remote control.
That's probably the monitor that AJ has at home.
I don't think I ever had a TV without a remote. I never had. I know TVs that, big boxes, that type of thing. I had TVs like with a dial like that, but also with like a big chunky brown remote. I remember my parents had a little TV in their room where I first saw Hulk Hogan, and I remember the big brown remote I was holding when I was switching the channels, and then I saw the Hulkster, and I was like, who is that, brother? I didn't know you could get muscles like that as a human being. That's insane. What is that? I didn't know they made humans like that. And the rest is pro wrestling history. Okay. What else is happening? Conor McGregor's teasing a major announcement in the UFC. He says he and the UFC have something big to announce. They've already announced a fight. He's fighting on the 29th of June, UFC 303. Next month, we're like just over a month away from the return of Conor versus Chandler. And Conor is saying that they're going to announce something big. I'm wondering if it might be a 165-pound championship. There's been a lot of talk for a long time about fixing the weight classes, and I feel like if they're going to do a first-ever 165-pound title, Chandler and McGregor would be a pretty good fight to do it at.
I mean, I don't think that should be the number one contenders, but hey, I'm all for the division, so if they do it, I'll support it. 165, 175, 185, and I would even go 195, 205.
Yep.
Cut 10 pounds per division all the way to 205, and maybe one day you even go 1 to 225, but for right now, 165, 185, 165, 175, 185, 195.
Yep. I agree. I don't understand the gap between weight divisions sometimes. It's like,
and
okay.
Plus,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I was reading, like, if you look at all the current champions, like, titles have been changing hands a lot lately. Like, guys don't keep titles for a long run in the UFC. So, new divisions, and a lot of these guys only fight once a year. So new divisions is going to give you a couple of more titles to put on pay-per-views.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to build the divisions over time. And also, like, if guys end up fighting in two divisions, that's good, man. If you get a guy, hey, he's a two-division champion, that's an accolade. That's something that, Bruce Buffer could say, like, the two-division champion. So I think they should embrace that, and the sport is there now, right now. It's grown to the point where it needs this.
We have had champion versus champion fights in different divisions, but I don't think we've ever seen one from 170 to 185. We've seen 185 go up to 205 and fight for the belt there, right? Adesanya tried it with Blachowicz. It didn't work because the 20-pound gap between 185 and 205 is pretty big. If you don't know the UFC's weight divisions on the male side, it's 125, 135, 145, 155, and then we make a 15-pound jump for some odd reason to 170, and then another 15-pound jump to 185, and then a 20-pound jump to 205 for light heavyweight, and then anything over 206 pounds to 265 pounds would be the heavyweight division. which, fine. There's not a ton of talented heavyweight anyways. Keep it that way for heavyweight right now. I think it makes sense. But I think you got to go with 135, 125, 135, 145, 55, 65, 75, 85, 95. I think that's where you go. And then it opens up a lot of champion versus champion fights. Like we've seen the middleweight champ go up to 205. That's happened. We've seen 145 go up to 155. That's happened. We've seen light heavyweight go up to heavyweight and win the belt there. That's happened. But going from 170 to 185, that seems like a gap. It's too far. And I feel like if you made it 165, 175, 185, you open up those weight divisions, and then you could see the 165 fighting the 175, and the 175 fighting the 185, 185 fighting 190. There's a lot of options there. Like George never fought Anderson Silva, right? Johnny North brought it up in the chat. George St. Pierre never fought Anderson Silva. There was a lot of talk about it. When George came back from his knee injury to fight here in Montreal, I think it was against Condit. I think it was a Condit fight. Anderson Silva did just a random appearance press conference before the fight talking about fighting George. Anderson basically called George out the night of his big return in his hometown in front of all the media. I was there. I was surprised. And he said, if I don't fight George, then maybe I'll fight this guy or that guy. But he was calling for George. That was the fight that they were trying to make. And George, he didn't want it at the time because Anderson was so big. Anderson had fought at 205. Anderson was the 185-pound champion. And George said, look, I'll fight anybody in the world at 170 pounds. Anderson did fight in the past at 170. And he said, look, if Anderson wants to drop down and fight at 170, we could do that. There was talk about a catch weight, but it didn't seem like it was going to happen. And that fight never happened, and it was a super fight that everybody wanted to see. But it didn't happen. The UFC needs super fights that do happen. So, yeah. That was a weird move by Anderson. I didn't like it. It was like George's big night. He comes in, and he's like, hey, George. He's kind of trying to take the shine away. But, you got to do what you got to do to make fights. He was trying. Anderson was trying that night, for sure. He's not showing up in Montreal for no reason. He was there to see if they could make this fight happen. And George didn't want to move up. I mean, they couldn't find a catch weight, I don't think, either.
George was the big draw back then. Like, I'm not sure if Conor McGregor was already on the scene. Like, Conor McGregor was, he might not even have been in the UFC yet. So George was the draw. Of course, Anderson wanted to fight him.
Were you at that press conference in Toronto where they showed all the champions?
Yeah.
That was sick. I think about that time. Those champions, all the champions that were there, they were the best champions in the history of the UFC.
Pretty much, yeah.
It was like George,
Kane, John,
Anderson. I think Frankie was 155 at the time.
Jose
Aldo, like, that stage was ridiculous. I remember seeing those guys there being like, what the hell? That is incredible. Just seeing all the UFC champions on stage at the same time. And you know what the craziest part of that is, Fred? John Jones is still there. This was like 2011, 2012. He's still there. He's still the man. Despite what people may say about him. Crazy. Okay. How about Jamal Hill? He was supposed to fight Khalil Rountree at UFC 303 on the Conor card. It's not happening because Khalil Rountree took a supplement that had like a steroid in it. He found out after he took it, so then he reported that to the UFC's drug testing program, and they said, oh, okay, you didn't do it on purpose, and since you self-reported, we see how you made that mistake. 2 months suspension, which is really not that bad, but he's got to pull out of his fight, which is on a big card against the former champion Jamal Hill. But Rountree had to pull out. It was kind of a weird situation, though, right? If you self-report that you screwed up, it's like, 2 months, that's it. It's not so bad.
If you really did an error,
yeah,
I mean, you might as well try to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
honesty has to pay in this situation. So the guy's honest, and yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of like it. It's just I didn't know that that's how it worked. Hadn't seen that one before. Carlos Ulberg will take the fight instead. He'll fight Jamal Hill at UFC 303.
Good, because I was going to say, if you're Jamal Hill, I'm not sure, like, because I think he came back too quick for his title fight there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you have the opportunity to fight on a Conor card, you know, you don't want to lose that. So it's good for him to get another title shot, another fight.
It seems like a terrible idea to me. He got knocked unconscious in April. Like, Carlos Ulberg doesn't suck at MMA. You know what I mean? This guy hits hard. He's 10-1. He just knocked out Alonzo Menefield in 12 seconds. That's what he did a couple weeks ago. And now he's turning around and fighting Jamal Hill, who's coming off a vicious knockout at the hands of Alex Pereira, coming off a year-long break, almost a year, because of an injury, comes out knocked unconscious in April. 2 months later, he's going to fight Carlos Ulberg. I got Ulberg in that fight. I think that's a bad move. Because I get it. Fighters are like, man, I got to get back. Like, that sucked. I got to get a win back, because that loss is going to be playing in your head. You got to get back on the horse. I get it. Sometimes when we have a show and I go, I don't like how that show went, I need to get the next show in as quickly as possible to erase the bad memory of like, this wasn't quite, AJ sucked, I really need to get it better. Need Johnny North to clean up the mess, But for me, I'm not risking a concussion. Those guys, he got a concussion. People say you get a concussion like that, you should take a year off. This dude's taking 2 months. He's back in the gym training. He's got to be. He gets knocked out. He's back in fight camp. And he's going to take on another heavy hitter. Light heavyweight is no joke either, by the way. Those punches come hard. There's a lot of knockouts. Big dudes, heavy leather. Come on, man. I think that's a terrible move from Jamal Hill to take this fight. I don't understand it. His team is just
probably
like,
right.
Like, come on. Look what happened to Volkanovski. Like, does Topuria beat him if the Makhachev fight doesn't happen? Maybe. But I think it was a factor. He didn't like the way that fight played out. It was a loss. It was ugly. He got knocked out. He wanted to get right back in it. Get a win back. Show everybody. Gets knocked out again.
No, I agree. He should take some time off. With that said, fighting on a Conor card, it's always like appealing. I could understand why. And also, you see, when he came back against Pereira, I think the bigger issue was his Achilles. It's the type of injury that needs some rehab. And also, I thought he was coming too quick. But now with, a knockout, you're probably right, man. He should have took some time.
Yeah.
Do we have AJ or... AJ's
not really. I think we have like a bit of AJ, but he's pretty glitchy still. Glitchy AJ, what's up?
AJ, you suck.
I've been hearing you guys. You're absolutely right, man.
Wow.
For Jamal Hill to take this fight.
Thank you. I'm glad you agree with us, AJ.
It looks like you changed rooms or something, but nothing.
Yeah.
I did. I moved areas. Fucking hell.
This is usually the better area for you, right? This is where it works.
Well, yeah.
I don't know why you didn't start here in the first place.
It looks just to me, but I don't know if I do. But,
it doesn't really work still.
It's a little frustrating. It's kind of like Chael Sonnen losing to Anderson Silva kind of moment,
It's all right. We're getting to the end of the show anyways.
Yeah, don't worry, AJ. We'll get you. You need to get a monitor, though. Get a monitor so we can hook up your computer.
I have a monitor. Somebody, we'll talk about it later.
If we can talk about it later, we'll see. I don't know. Your phone is kind of glitchy.
I can?
Yeah, you're super glitchy, AJ. You're not working. It's not working.
Shit,
Cool.
man.
Cool. So UFC 302 is next week. Dustin Poirier is saying he's going to beat Islam Makhachev, which, you know, he should. He should be saying that.
Yeah, right.
Will
He
he?
won't.
AJ says no. Fred says no. I'm going to say no. I'm going to go with a big.
Look,
That's
man.
a resounding no from all of us. But honestly, I'm kind of rooting for him. It'd be a cool story if he could do it. It'd be
Yeah.
nice to see.
Yeah. Listen, if anybody could do it, it would be Poirier, man. He's already done it twice. I mean, he has that hit factor that, you know, people would love to see him win. But it's going to be, you know, that keeps, man,
Yeah. Cool. I don't know what the hell he's saying. Yeah. I don't know what the hell he's saying. Sorry, AJ. You're just impossible to understand. Poirier coming off that knockout win over Benoit Saint Denis. Got himself a title shot, taking on Islam Makhachev. You know, I like Islam. I love his fighting style. But there's something about him when he does interviews sometimes where it's like, man, you're so cocky. Like, you're so cocky. Like, he's really good, but goddamn. Yeah, I like the look. I like the look where he's just, like, listening to somebody and he's like, I like that. I like that style. But the things he says, I go, dude, like, get a hold of yourself. You know, like, he's obsessed with being ranked pound for pound #1. He's like, who is John Jones? What has he done? All this stuff. You know, like, he's really good. What are you saying? You got to go? Oh, Fred's got to go. Here we go. Oh, this is going to be good now. This is when the show really kicks into full gear. Solo Dave. This is what you all paid to see. Just me. I just think Islam's very cool. I'm a big fan of his. But when he starts talking, I wonder if he's not overconfident. Like, I know he's very confident, but it borders on cocky, and I wonder, like, Islam, like, be careful, you know? He makes fun of Dustin Poirier's guillotine. He's like, his guillotine sucks, and da-da-da. And, like, you got to respect your opponents. And I worry that he'll be so dominant and so good that he might start overlooking some people and get caught. Because that can't happen. And the way he talks sometimes makes me wonder if he's not overlooking certain opponents. If he's not overlooking Dustin Poirier. And you got to be careful when you're fighting Dustin Poirier. You can't overlook a Dustin Poirier. So I hope that he's taking him seriously. Because some of the interviews that Islam has done, specifically the one he did with Daniel Cormier and Chael Sonnen, which was hilarious and really entertaining and fun to watch, but it kind of borders on like, oh, are you overlooking this guy? Because, Fred, you know just as well as I do, right? You got to take everybody seriously in the UFC. They're there for a reason. Dustin Poirier is a world-class fighter. He's there for a reason. And I understand Islam saw Poirier get absolutely dismantled by Khabib Nurmagomedov, and maybe he thinks, I'll do the same. Poirier's not that good, but Poirier is pretty good. And if you don't take him seriously, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not sharp, if you're not on your game, if you're not taking your opponent deadly seriously, you can fall. So I worry about Islam because some of the things he says in interviews makes me question, like, are you taking Poirier seriously? So, like, I could see an upset. I really could. I could see Islam getting hit, getting hurt, thinking to himself, I didn't think this was going to happen. And in that moment, boom, it's over. It can happen that quick. We've seen it happen time and time again in the UFC. We've picked main events unanimously saying this guy's going to win. Upsets happen. Crazy things happen in the UFC. We see it every time we watch a pay-per-view. Crazy things happen. Big upsets happen. I'm just
Islam
saying.
got this.
Yeah, I think at this point to say that he doesn't is crazy because of the body of work and how good he is, right? He's so good. He seems levels above everybody. Volkanovski took it to him, though. Volkanovski gave him a good fight. Not the last time, but the first time, like, it was not easy for him.
Yeah, but there was the whole weigh-in that was at a different time because it was like in Australia or something like that.
Yeah.
Like the first fight, there was a difference. So Islam couldn't recuperate as quickly. Like he had less time to recuperate in between the weigh-in and the fight.
Right.
And I think that affected the first fight against Volkanovski. So I don't know. I think he's got this. Look, yeah, of course, Poirier is dangerous. He just tapped Saint Denis with a great guillotine. So he's dangerous. But I don't see Islam getting caught in that guillotine, and I don't see Islam getting caught on the feet either.
Standing up, I wonder. I think it might be an issue. I think he's going to get the takedowns, though, and it won't be a problem. But I think, Poirier is probably a better stand-up fighter than Islam is.
Yeah, but the threat of the wrestling is going to neutralize a lot of Poirier's strikes.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless he's super confident in getting back up.
Yeah,
you got to be ready. You got to be ready to get taken down.
But you don't want to be there. Like,
no.
If Islam's on top of you, that's a long fight, man. And that's a grueling fight where you're spending a lot of energy trying to get out. And
yeah,
that's not a recipe for success. Like, he has to manage a way to keep it on his feet, probably. Have this be a striking battle.
Touch him up, stay away. Hit him, stick and move. I think that's how you beat him. If you're going to come up with a game plan for Poirier to beat Islam Makhachev, I'd say stay off the fence, stay in the center of the octagon. I think you got to control the center. That's going to be big because you don't want to get pushed against the fence. Keep your distance and hit him. Hit it, just box him. Just box him. Don't throw any kicks. Throw 0 kicks, just box him. Throw some flying knees, maybe. I think a flying knee might work. And get ready for try to counter the takedowns with the knee, I think is always a nice move. That doesn't get used as much in MMA as it used to. Remember that guys used to shoot in and they just get pow, the knee right there? Doesn't happen as much, but Poirier's old enough in the MMA game that I'm sure he knows that technique. That's probably one that he's drilled a million times. So I think that there are ways to beat Islam Makhachev. But if you're Islam, I think what you want to do is you want to press forward. You want to control the center. You want to control the pace of the fight. And you're going to look for a lot of takedowns. You're going to look to push him against the fence. You're going to look to clinch him up. You're going to look to take him down. But I don't think Islam's going to go just for that. I think he's going to stand up with Poirier. I think he's going to land good shots. Because Islam is no joke standing up either. He just head kick knocked out Alexander Volkanovski. Goddamn, that's going to be a good fight. Next weekend, UFC 302. 302? 302. In Newark, New Jersey. All right, Freddie, we've done it. I think without AJ, but AJ will be back one day. Just as a quick note at the end, did you hear this thing about PFL and Gegard Mousasi? Did you see any of this?
Remind me, I think, yes.
Well, Bellator signed Gegard to this big money contract, but then Bellator got bought by the PFL, right? So, and there are some Bellator fighters like Cyborg and some other kind of bigger name, higher value Bellator assets that PFL is just not giving fights to because their business model is you're in a tournament and that's it. So they don't seem to want to honor the contract of Gegard or Cyborg or whoever that are under contract, and now they're releasing Gegard. They're we're going to release him from the contract. He can just go wherever he wants. But Gegard is telling MMA Fighting that he's maybe going to sue them because they owe him the money, and it's this whole thing where PFL is just not honoring some of these Bellator contracts, leaving some people in limbo. And PFL's kind of firing back. This guy, Don Davis, who's the Dana White of PFL, is saying all sorts of stuff. He was talking smack about Kayla Harrison, saying she just wants to be a follower, and that's why she went to the UFC. She doesn't want to be a real ground shaker, kind of groundbreaker, and move sports forward. She's just, a follower, so that's why she left. It's like, well, okay. He had some fiery words, and people seem upset with PFL. So, I don't know. I think if you're a certain level fighter, it's a good place to be, but once you hit a kind of higher level, maybe not. The big-name fighters, maybe that's not the place to be, which is weird because didn't they sign Jake Paul and Francis Ngannou to contracts at some point? And they have yet to fight, by the way.
I mean, look, the UFC also will cut some guys sometimes, so I don't know what Gegard's contract said. I can't really comment on that. Maybe he was just not in their plans, and if, I don't know, if the contract says that he's guaranteed some money, well, he should be going after that money.
Yeah.
If they had a right to cut him, that's their right.
Yeah. But it seems like the usual business practice in these situations, like when UFC bought Pride, they honored all the contracts. They bought all the contracts. They brought them all into the UFC. But then again, same with Strikeforce.
But you'll have guys in the UFC get cut after a couple of losses, and they'll still have fights on their contract. So those fights are not being honored. So I can't blame a company for firing a guy, whatever the decision is. He costs too much. He's not in their plans, whatever it is. If the contract allows them to do that, I'm not going to blame them on that.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know if he was guaranteed anything or if the contract says we can cut
him
anytime.
And if he is guaranteed, well, he should go after his money. He should say, hey, pay me.
I don't know. In the world of independent contractors in sports entertainment, you don't see a lot of no-cut guaranteed money. I'm not seeing it. I mean, WWE, they sign people to big money contracts, and, they've cut them in the past. More under the Vince era than the Triple H regime, but, we'll see. UFC has done it too. They can cut you whenever. You can't leave until they say you can leave. If you sign a contract, they have you for that many fights unless they don't want you. You can't go. Even if you retire from MMA, like a Jorge Masvidal, even if you say, I quit MMA, if you've got fights left on that UFC contract, you can't go fight MMA somewhere else. You've retired, buddy. You can't fight somewhere else. If you want to fight MMA, you have to do it in the octagon. That's how the UFC operates. But if they think they don't want you anymore and you're no longer valuable to them and they don't really have room for you, then they'll cut you. If you lose a couple fights and you're kind of not a big name and they want a roster spot, they'll cut you for that. So, it happens. It happens. It's a tough business. It's not easy to be a pro fighter or pro wrestler. For more on pro wrestling, check us out tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Losing the voice at the end of the show. It's a good sign. 10 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night, myself and Johnny North, we will be previewing 2 pro wrestling events this weekend. 2 big wrestling shows. This is a massive weekend in pro wrestling, Fred. I don't know if you knew this, but the King and Queen of the Ring in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, coming up on Saturday afternoon. We will see a new King of the Ring, and I think it may be the Ring General, Gunther, who's super cool. And then on Sunday night, it's AEW Double or Nothing. So we've got a double preview show tomorrow night right after SmackDown in Jeddah. SmackDown in Saudi Arabia, and then the premium live event King and Queen of the Ring, also in Saudi Arabia on Saturday. So a big weekend in Saudi for the WWE and the big weekend in pro wrestling in general. We're going to have a post show on Saturday right after the King and Queen of the Ring, and we'll do a post show for Double or Nothing on Monday night. So we've got you covered here on the pro wrestling side for everything. Double or Nothing and King and Queen of the Ring. Preview show tomorrow night on Wrestling Uncensored, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, live here on the Ringside Report Network.
Thanks for sticking with us to the end. We would really appreciate it if you could help us spread the word. Please share this episode on whichever social media platform you use. Add a comment below and consider reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. We are an audience-supported network, so consider becoming a recurring supporter at membership.ringsidereport.net. Check out our website at ringsidereport.net. Hope to see you again next time, and have a